Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine Podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and this week's guest is Eyal. He is a sexual empowerment coach, author, and speaker. He helps professionals unleash their pleasure, power, and purpose, embracing and harnessing their sexual energy, allowing them to express their creative gifts, helping others to live a more meaningful life. His best-selling book, Orgasm Unleashed, Your Guide to Pleasure, Healing, and Power, teaches a woman how to transform her sexual experience by herself and later share that with her partner. So this was an amazing interview. I loved it. So this is like a beautiful man's perspective of a woman's landscape. It's just really mind-blowing to me, actually, how more tapped in he is to a woman's clitoris than even many women are. So we really talk, we talk about so much about the clitoris. And the clitoral orgasms are one of the more easier orgasms that a woman can obtain. So he and I have his book and I read it and I just had so many questions about it. So he talks about how it's not all about the clitoris, the clitoral orgasms, though they're great. Don't get me wrong, but there's just so much more depth to other types of orgasms, to the point where you can be in an orgasmic state for anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes. And to be having this like full body flow. I mean, how amazing does that sound? So I had to have him on the show because I needed to know, like, how can we do this? How can women tap in more deeply? How can we have these amazing, longer, full body, beautiful orgasms and have this experience? Because imagine being able to experience that even on a daily basis. And when you do, like the woman that you are going out into the world, the woman that's, whether you're shopping or going to work or you're going grocery shopping or wherever you are, like how you are and your interactions with other people on the day, after or even an hour after you've had like this beautiful full body orgasm. I mean, come on. I mean, it must be life-changing. Now, I personally can't say that I've experienced a 60-minute full body orgasm, but it's definitely something that I'm striving for. So we talk about so many things. Oh my gosh, you have to listen to this interview. It's mind-blowing how we can be as women, how we can be so much more in our erotic than we are now. And if you are currently already in your erotic and you are so freaking tapped in, amen, sister, like go for it. It's like, I love that you are tapped in, but a lot of you out there are not. And I see it in my practice. And if you're having orgasms, maybe they're quick, maybe they're clitoral, which he describes, and I know that you know what I'm talking about, but he also describes it very well, that they're quick, they're short, they're very intense, and then you're left like, okay, I'm done. And that's it. And there's something it's not long lasting in a way. It's very short and it's sort of a superficial. He calls it a genital squeeze. So, and I'm like, yeah, totally. I know what you're talking about, of course. And he's like, oh my God, we have to like get over the clitoral addiction. That's what he calls it. And really start with trying to go much deeper. So ladies, I hope you enjoy every minute of this interview because I did. And we are in the talks of possibly having him come into the States. He lives in Australia. Is it Australia or is he from New Zealand? Anyway, he's not from the States. And so this year he will be coming to New York and LA. And so I don't know, maybe, if things sort of pan together very well, it may be that we may be hosting something together. I'm not sure. But I just want to say that I would love to learn more from this man, for sure. And my sisters. I know lots of my sisters who would be like, yes. And he's got some videos on YouTube, which are, oh my God, they're intense. Like you see a woman's body just writhing, and it just goes on and on and on and on. It's amazing. So enjoy this interview and on to the show. Hello and welcome back to the Sacred Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and today I have a very special guest. I have Eyal from theintimatepower.com. He is the author of Orgasm Unleashed, Your Guide to Pleasure, Healing, and Power. I overheard an interview that he had with Susanna Frioni on her podcast, and I knew in an instant that I just had to have him on. He speaks about orgasm in such a beautiful way that I knew I needed to share it with my listeners. So, Eyal, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm talking about some of my favorite topics. How can I say no?
And my favorite as well. So, going through your book, so interesting. And something that I never really thought of is that you speak about clitoral orgasms, which I think the majority of women can easily obtain compared to other different types of orgasm, G-spot versus cervical, for example.
Yeah.
And you say that it's more of an explosive sort of orgasm, yet G-spot, or more of a vaginal orgasm, tends to be more implosive and longer and have a much longer, sort of a deeper experience. So can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I would like to know, can clitoral orgasms ever become implosive?
So I'll answer that. First, if I can say that some women might be listening and they go like, oh, here's another man who thinks he knows about women and telling us what to do and stuff. So first of all, I wanted to just name that. So I'm a man that works with women and teaches women and talks a lot about female experience. So I'm not a woman, but I have met a few. So okay. I've worked with many women and I've trained with a lot of women. And although I'm a man, I'm a man who is endorsed by many sexual educators, including Layla Martin and Bonnie Bliss and Emma Power and others, as a man who actually knows what he's talking about when it comes to women. So just to say that. So okay. It's not me saying that, it's those women saying that. And what I would suggest to anyone listening, the way that I work, the way that I teach, the way that I act in the world, live in the world, is talk about stuff that everybody else is afraid to talk about or you don't even know. So if you feel triggered, if you feel, it's like, what the fuck this guy is talking about, you're like, okay, let's listen and let's maybe even try and give it a chance. And if it doesn't work for you, don't worry about it, So yeah, I'm just inviting everybody to just give this a chance and try that for themselves.
All right.
Yeah, is that fair to say? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You probably met the guy before who thought he knew about what to do with women, yeah, and then usually it's not actually the case. So okay, with that out of the way, clitoral orgasms. So this is something that kind of like many women have this experience of clitoral orgasm. Hopefully, many women have clitoral orgasms. And then they think like, oh, it's like I'm, in a good place. I have like, 1, 2, sometimes 3 clitoral orgasms and I'm orgasmic. And they think that they're doing okay. They think that everything's okay. Mm-hmm. Actually, clitoral orgasms are not bad, but in some ways they are a little bit depleting for the body. I'll give you an example. Yeah. So a woman would have a clitoral orgasm, and I'm very much generalizing right now. So just bear with me.
Okay.
But many women, when they have a clitoral orgasm, a second later, there will be this feeling of hypersensitivity of the clitoris. Mm-hmm. Now, this kind of like, lay your hands off my clit now.
Right.
Your hand, your tongue, anything. It's like it just feels hypersensitive, too much, sharp, kind of like, even like if it's even like still pleasurable, but it's not like a pleasurable. It's kind of like feeling like too much.
Yes.
Okay, do you recognize this
yes.
feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because a second earlier, it's like a woman is having some pleasure, and a second later, during or after this orgasm, suddenly it's like, don't touch me anymore. So that's one aspect of that. Another one is that the woman would sometimes feel done. So she would have a clitoral orgasm, she would feel done. Sometimes she would feel sleepy, and I talk with many women, that use this as a sleeping aid. Mm-hmm. Be a bit tired or a bit, whatever, and then they rub their clit or use a vibrator or whatever, and then they have a clitoral orgasm, and then they fall asleep. Also, women would say that when they have sex and they have a clitoral orgasm, many times they're, again, generalizing alert, but for many women, their level of arousal and desire would drop. So they would be with a partner and they would orgasm, and sometimes the connection to the partner would drop as well.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize some of these?
Yes, for sure.
So even more, it's like in some cases women go into maybe not severe depression, but kind of like feeling a little bit down afterwards. And it's kind of like a feeling of being let down. So there was an expectation of great pleasure and a great experience and a great orgasm, but usually the women who have clitoral orgasms, it's like they feel like they're falling short of what they expected. Oh, it's like, and I don't know if you noticed that, but it's very similar. Everything that I described is very similar to a man's ejaculatory orgasm. Okay, so a moment later, there's hypersensitivity. The orgasm is very, very sharp. It's very, very short, and the man, falls asleep after ejaculates, and women many times feel that the man is less connected to them after a clitoral orgasm.
That's true. Yes. I think a lot of women have experienced that.
Yeah, sadly, and how fun is that? So a clitoral orgasm, in some ways, it's similar to that. And again, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying it's one experience. And what if you can have other experiences? And other experiences is, for example, G-spot, vaginal, cervical, whole body orgasms, and that there's many kinds of orgasms explained in the book. So this orgasm is, first of all, it takes longer to build. Clitoral orgasm, sometimes a woman can get herself to a clitoral orgasm in 30 seconds.
Right.
But an internal orgasm takes a while longer to build up, and you need to be kind of like connected to your body in order to have this. You need to be relaxed. You need to be aware of what's going on in your body. It's not just mindless, automatic, technical rubbing. Okay, so there's a level of connection there to, let's say, to your yoni. And then when the orgasm actually unfolds, it's like a very gentle wave that unfolds. Sometimes a strong wave that unfolds, but it's not a sharp wave anymore. It's not a sharp wave of pleasure. It's more of a round pleasure. If you think about the shape of the pleasure is round. The pleasure is expanding. It's not just connected in the genital area like the clitoral one, but it expands all around the body. Emotionally, there's a feeling of greater fulfillment and satisfaction from this kind of orgasm. There's also a deeper level of connection, both with the self and also with your partner, and sometimes even with life and with the universe and with God. So really, these orgasms, the let's say all of the stuff which is not clitoral, is really allow us to touch the emotional level of the orgasm, the spiritual level of the orgasm, the sacred level of the orgasm. So it's totally different experience than the clitoral orgasm.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall I keep going?
Yes, please.
Okay. So yeah, there's even more. So it's kind of like the pleasure is not just stronger, it's different. So if you think about clitoral orgasm, it's kind of like a black and white television, kind of like one experience is a bit black and white, they're very similar. All of the other kinds of orgasms, there's like a universe of orgasms out there or in there. So there's so many different experiences that you can have, because once the energy starts flowing in your body, once you start cultivating and harnessing and allowing that energy to be retained in your body, not to be exploded, there's so many different experiences. It's like suddenly you see the world with more colors, with more shapes, with more resolution, with more sound.
Yeah. And so I think that a lot of women are now listening to this and thinking, wow, well, I can easily get a clitoral orgasm, but how does one experience that deeper sensation? And when you say vaginal, are you also, do you mean the G-spot as well? Are you using those two terms sort of interchangeably?
Yeah, so in the book Orgasm Unleashed, there's a few classifications. You know, I'm a man still, so I like to make things like really clear. But generally, everything which is non-clitoral is different. Okay, and by the way, the way that you know that you have a clitoral orgasm is if you have this effect of the symptom of the hypersensitivity of the clit, and this feeling of like done but not fully satisfied, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, so that's one of my friends, one of my fellow sexual educators calls it a genital sneeze. Yeah. So again, nothing bad. It's like you have them, that's okay. But there's so much more that you can experience, and the other kinds of orgasms are also more empowering for women. Okay, because it's also about self-love and self-connection and self-exploration, because the clitoral orgasm is a little bit disconnected. And all of the other kinds of orgasms, and one that, by the way, can happen even without touch or without genital touch, they are more connected. There's more self-love and self-connection there. Because you probably know this. Think about like a man jerking off. You know, just rubbing his cock, ejaculating in 3 minutes, and that's it. So women sometimes do that as well. Okay, and I've seen that sometimes with my clients. I've seen it with lovers. I've seen it sometimes with the very, very, very few porn clips that I've witnessed. It's like women are rubbing, and it's kind of like very forceful and very technical. And instead, a woman can have this other experience, which is much more soft, and it can be intense. You know, don't get me wrong. It's not just soft, but the level of self-connection there is so much deeper, because you need to feel your body. You need to. I'll get into the how you do this in a moment, but it's a very, very connected experience. So yeah, how do you actually do this? So first of all is understanding that if you have clitoral orgasms, it's a little bit of an addiction, and you need to decide to let go of that addiction. And by the way, if you can't stop anything for let's say 30 days, it's an addiction. Okay, I recently had 30 days without sugar and chocolate, so I definitely was aware of how much I was attached to sugar and chocolate before. So first of all, understand, and the moment that you start practicing, and this is an experience that I'm working with my clients and women who read this book, suddenly they feel like they have this craving for this clitoral orgasm and release. They feel like they feel a bit down, or they feel a bit depressed, or they feel a bit anxious, or they feel a bit tired, or they feel a bit horny, and they just want to rub it to get it out of their system.
Right.
And I've literally worked with women that it's like they were on drugs. They were not on drugs. Again, they were on the clitoral drug. And after a few days of practice, they told me, it's like, oh yeah, it's like I defaulted again. It's like gave myself clitoral orgasm, and afterwards I felt like shit, and I had all the symptoms, and it's really not worth it. And after a few days they would do that again. So first of all, a lot of the work that I do starts with why, like this beautiful Simon Sinek TED talk. Start with why. Why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you letting go of clitoral orgasms, and in what way it serves you not to have them, and in what way it would serve you to have all of the other kinds of orgasms. So first of all, start with the intention, and then and by the way, there's something that I say that when you expand your definition of orgasm, your orgasm will expand. Okay, when you expand your definition of orgasm, your orgasm will expand. So for most women and most people, an orgasm is kind of like this short and sharp peak when you see in the movies that they both, shout and scream at the same time. It's kind of like the crescendo of the sexual experience. It's kind of like the ta-da! And then, it's like the man rolls over or the woman rolls over and they smoke a cigarette, or, it's like, so let go of that idea of orgasm as the peak of sex or as the ending of sex. I really like to, compose these little sentences or memes, and I say that orgasm is not the end of sex; it's the beginning of sex.
Now, can I ask you a quick question before I forget?
Please.
So when a woman, let's say she has a clitoral orgasm now, like you said, and there's this peak, this high, and then it comes down very quickly.
Yeah.
And it ends. So when a woman does not have that, let's say she's having a vaginal orgasm, is she able to continue having intercourse during it and after it and continuing?
Oh, yeah.
Or is there also a wave and it ends?
So I'm really, really happy that you asked me that, because that's one of the main differences between the, let's say, the clitoral and non-clitoral. So with the clitoral, many women would only have one, and afterwards they will feel done. They will not be interested to continue. But with the non-clitoral, vaginal, G-spot, cervical, whole body, energetic orgasms, and so on, first of all, the woman would feel it's like it's a deep level of satisfaction, and she can still have more. So it's a very beautiful balance between being fully satisfied but still being open for more. Okay. And yes, you can have one and another one, another one, another one. I literally, sometimes with women who would have hundreds of little peaks or big peaks within an hour, within 2 hours. And then what happens is that you get to what I call the intense orgasmic state. So the intense orgasmic state is something that can last for half an hour. So imagine being in an orgasm for half an hour or for 1 hour. And this is an orgasm that in some ways doesn't take a lot of effort. It's not like you have to do too much. Once a woman gets herself into an orgasmic state and she opens her mind to what's possible. I was recently held a retreat with this woman called Chantel Dakini, and I held a demo where I got a woman into an orgasmic state, and afterwards I was going around the room and facilitating and supporting for other people, and she stayed in this orgasmic state with very little touch and without me touching her at all, and she was just there for like more than an hour. So that's what's possible.
Wow. Well, I mean,
so,
like half, so obviously awake, or is her eyes closed? Is she kind of sleeping, or is she?
No, she's like fully awake. It's like she was fully awake, making lots of sounds. Screaming, shouting, moaning, moving, not moving, everything, all of the above.
Okay.
So there's many different ways that a woman or man, by the way, can experience this. And the idea is that many times it just goes on by itself, or it goes on with very little effort and very little movement. So I teach women how to do some things in order to keep this orgasmic state going. And, I come from a background of Tantra, and according to Tantra, in this orgasmic state, this is where the magic happens.
Mm.
And once you realize the magic of the orgasmic state, you can be in an orgasmic state from everything. Okay, you
Wow.
can listen to music and you can literally start, shaking and orgasming and moaning. You can eat something and the food can be so good you can allow that pleasure to spread throughout your body. But I wanna go back to how we actually do this. Like some people might be listening and like, okay, we sold, we sold. How do we do that?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I started mentioning this earlier. It's all about self-pleasuring. And self-pleasuring doesn't exactly mean masturbation. The word masturbation in some way has been, I don't know, it's kind of like feels like this technical thing, masturbation. I like to call it self-love or self-pleasuring.
Me too.
And the idea with self-pleasuring is that it's not even just about the pleasure, it's about self-exploration. And it's okay for you, by the way, to touch your clit. There's no problem to touch your clit. The clit is a beautiful place in your body. I love the clit. We all love the clit. There's no problem with the clit. Okay, if anybody had any doubts. The idea is that you arouse yourself throughout yourself in your self-pleasuring practice, and you make sure that you don't get to what's called the point of no return for women. So point of no return is that point that if you reach this point, you probably feel it. It's like everything starts to feel more rushed, and you start to maybe squeeze your muscles, your thigh muscle, your belly muscles. Kind of like there's contraction, there's effort. You do this faster. And the pleasure feels like it's going up, rising very, very, very fast. And in this point, what you have to do might seem crazy, but what you need to do at that moment is pause. Just pause. It's like hands off, woman. Just relax for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And in those moments, again, all the time, think about a man when he's building himself towards an ejaculation, and you tell him to stop. It's like it's a bit difficult in those moments. So you have to stop well before that point of no return.
Okay.
Because the point of no return is not exactly the orgasm. It's something that happens a few seconds before the orgasm. So you make sure that you don't get yourself into that clitoral orgasm. You recognize that point when you start to squeeze or you start to tense your muscle or your breath becomes shallow. And it's kind of like a point where you feel like pushing. Okay, and you see this, or at least I see this a lot with women. It's like they start building to the clitoral orgasm, and it's like they're racing towards it.
Right.
And when you recognize you are kind of like in this mode of pushing towards it, just relax, just lay off. Generally, by the way, don't use a vibrator because a vibrator makes you desensitized, makes you less sensitive to subtle energies. So it's very important for a woman to arouse herself with her fingers, first of all. Okay? So even with clitoral stimulation, you can still build it up, but then don't let yourself come. Don't let yourself orgasm.
Okay.
And then you pause and you let the energy relax a little bit. Maybe you do some breathing and you move your body and you make some sounds. And then you in this way, you move the energy around your body. And then you start again with stimulation. So then it's also called the start and stop method or edging. It's also called edging.
Right.
So the idea is to stay on the edge of orgasm and not to go specifically not into a clitoral orgasm.
Okay.
And then the next step of this practice is also to explore internal stimulation, not just external stimulation. So ladies, drum roll, you have a vagina. Okay, it's like I sometimes see both men and women and they're so focused on the clitoris. It's like okay already. Okay, it's like the 60s, the feminist movement or whatever. It's like this discover the clitoris. It's like the clitoris didn't exist before. It's like it was invented in the 60s, and ever since then the whole focus is clit.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you ever been with a man who attacked your clitoris. Ever happened? It's like they rub it with their fingers or they attack it with their tongue, and all of the focus is there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, hey buddy, I have a whole body. Hey Johnny, I have a whole body. It's like I have a vagina, I have a G-spot. So bring that pleasure inside, bring that sensation inside, bring that the focus, the awareness inside. So first of all, start with your fingers. So put the finger in, and obviously it's good if you lubricate it before you insert your finger in. Get to a level where you feel that your yoni, your vagina, is yearning to be penetrated. Okay, do you know sometimes you are in this so horny and so aroused, it's kind of like, penetrate me now,
right?
Kind of. And get yourself with yourself pleasuring into the same feeling or similar feeling when your yoni wants to be filled, wants to be penetrated. And by the way, some women wouldn't necessarily have this every time, and you can use lube as well a little bit, at least in the beginning. But as you're practicing, your yoni, by the way, will be more and more wet. This is one of the things that happens to people who practice this. Your yoni will become, and so many women, suffer from vaginal dryness and so on.
Yeah.
So yoni will become more wet, and it will become more engorged, and it will become more ready for penetration as well. So you start by inserting your fingers, and you start exploring with your fingers, and it's very important for a woman to feel how she feels inside.
Mm-hmm.
And ask yourself, how does my yoni feel like right now? It's like, how do the different areas of my yoni feel? So that's first of all with your fingers, and then you play with either a dildo or something that looks like a dildo, so some long vegetable like a cucumber or a carrot or something like that. And if right now a woman is listening and thinking like, oh, that's naughty, that's sick, that's dirty, that's wrong, ask yourself, why do you think that inserting like something you basically eat and you insert it into your mouth and chew it and swallow it?
That's
why is
true.
it not? Because I'm everything that I'm describing right now is because of things that I've heard from women that I've worked with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, a woman told me, it's like, oh, doesn't feel natural. I'm like, but it feels natural to eat it. So
Good
point.
point.
Yeah, just notice what comes up. And when I talk with women, they will tell me like, oh, I have so much resistance of putting something inside me. Putting even my fingers inside me, it feels wrong, it feels dirty, it feels disgusting, it feels, there's all of this stuff around women's vaginas that is in society, that's so much residues and so much stuff around that. So this is the reason that this practice is a life-changing practice. Self-pleasuring with internal stimulation is at the core of what I do with women and what helps them to become more self-loving, more self-accepting, more creative, and also more successful. So side note, I'm not just doing sexual empowerment, but it's all about combining sexuality, creativity, and business. So if you want an edge in business, by the way, this is one of the hidden secrets.
Yeah, I remember reading that in your book, and I it's sort of like our internal superpower, and we get to access that.
Yeah, internal. You can say that again. So definitely, and I would really suggest to a woman to take a commitment to do this for 30 days for at least 10 minutes. And when I say at least, usually I mean like double that. But try to do this for at least 10 minutes, self-pleasuring, avoiding clitoral orgasm, touching yourself inside with your fingers, inserting a dildo, again, not a vibrating anything, but a non-vibrating stationary, how do you say, dildo or something, and then do this for 10 minutes or 20 minutes every day. And if you have more time, do this for 30 minutes. Really rouse yourself throughout your body and explore what comes up. And sometimes you wouldn't have pleasure at all. So it's not just about the pleasure. It's about exploration. It's about discovery. It's about healing. And so many women, by the way, obviously so many women have experienced sexual abuse and sexual trauma. But even if a woman didn't experience that, so many women still have pains and tensions inside their vaginas. And this practice is a healing practice. It's a self-healing practice.
Now, what if she has a partner? Is this best to do on her own, or can she start like the edging process? Can she do that with a partner?
So I would suggest, and this is again the core of my work, both with women and with men, you need to do this by yourself, because so many people, both women and men, relying independent and expecting somebody else to save them, to fix them, to heal them, to empower them, to make them orgasmic, to make them whatever. Okay. So there's some things that you can only do by yourself and you cannot do with another person. And there's other things you can only do with another person you cannot do by yourself. So it's good to experience both. So, some women come to me and they go like, I need a partner, I need a partner, I need a partner. And I'm going like, you need to do this for 1 month and not to see anyone. And the idea is that if somebody's so relying and so expecting on somebody else to save them, I need to empower them and make them understand that they can do this for themselves. And that's my one of my biggest messages to people. So you start practicing this by yourself, and then after you practice this by yourself, then you share this with your lover. And one of my memes is, if you want to have great sex, learn to have great sex with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And again, so much like resistance comes for women when I give them this practice. They would call me and they would tell me, it's like, Eyal, it's like, I feel it's like I can't give myself this time. I feel like they feel like they're not worth it. They feel like it's boring. They feel like not feeling enough. They want to be with a man. They want to fuck. They want to have a man inside them. And they're like, that's natural and that's beautiful. But why are you resisting yourself? That's true. Something to
right.
To look.
Now, when you say to explore yourself, the 10-minute, take some time and lubricate and explore. Are you talking about that leading up to the edging and all of that? Because the edging, if you want to do that a few times to sort of build up and then come, the crescendo up and down, that could take, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, or am I totally off base here? I mean,
it depends how much time you have. So I suggest a woman to do something rather than nothing. So if a woman listens to this and she has 5 kids and 2 jobs and she doesn't have 45 minutes, do 10 minutes when you go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's good to do something, and then to do a little bit of edging, and you make sure that you don't finish it off with a clitoral orgasm, and then you go to sleep still filled with this energy, or you also first thing in the morning before the kids wake up. It's like just a little bit of self-pleasuring, build this energy throughout in the morning, and it stays with you throughout the day. And I literally have clients that tell me, it's like, Eyal, I'm feeling like I'm vibrating throughout the day. I'm feeling like I'm shining as I'm walking down the street.
So, I'm sorry. That's just bringing something up for me. So, if you're not, I know how sometimes, talking to my girlfriends, and even for myself, if it's something, if I'm wanting, let's say, to have intercourse and, or I'm feeling arousal and I'm not able to, for whatever reason, self-pleasure, and it's building up, like I'm having high libido and I'm not able to do anything about it. I am like bitchy and pissed off, right? So, because I can't.
We have a name for it where I come from. It's called horny as fuck.
Exactly.
Let's call it by its name. It's horny as fuck. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, I know that one.
So, but you're saying don't have the clitoral orgasm for a month. And what if women that's all they have? And so you want them to edge and get close to it, but not. That's so hard to do. I think by the end of the month, I think, I haven't tried this, but I would think that I would be so on edge and pissed that, I wouldn't feel the way you're saying.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me answer that. That's a really good question, and I love it when people, I love this interview because every time it allows me to explain it a little bit better. So what happens? For some women, by the way, even from the first experience, and for some women it will take them a few days or weeks, you actually start to become orgasmic without having those clitoral orgasms. So as you are edging, it's like you start and you stop and you start and you stop. And then you do this for 20 minutes or half an hour. And then you realize that you've been on an orgasmic state the whole way through. Because before that, you were constantly expecting and needing and used to and focused on this, on the literally, 20 seconds of the clitoral peak.
Right.
And when you do self-pleasuring for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and you don't peak, you actually understand that you're in an orgasmic state. And sometimes you can actually have what we call the good peak orgasm. Okay, so you actually can have a vaginal orgasm because of the G-spot stimulation with the dildo, the cervical stimulation with the dildo, generally the vaginal stimulation with the dildo, and also the whole body stimulation would create new orgasms. And also, by the way, similar to a man who doesn't ejaculate, if you build this energy up for a week or so in your body, you will start to find everything orgasmic. Your body will become more sensitive to touch. Because the problem with clitoral orgasm, it's numbing you down emotionally, numbing you down energetically, numbing you down physically. Okay, and the problem with this society is people are used to the strong, hard, fast.
That's so true.
I've been to this sexpo, this sex convention in Australia a few months ago, and everything was like the strongest, biggest vibrators, and it's kind of like devices, which is like kind of like a penis that fucks, like something that you position on something, and it kind of like goes into a woman and fucks her like a man. It's like
yes,
horrendous.
I know which one you're talking about.
It's an abomination.
Yes,
it's an abomination. It's like it's like this is a man that invented this thing. A woman would not invent this thing, And like everything is around the size. Everything is about how hard, how strong, how fast, how big.
Yes.
It is, and sadly, this is how society. The society is like a child or a juvenile. How do you say? Not adolescent, pre-adolescent around sex. Okay, it's like genitals, dick, pussy, penetration, friction, all of this stuff. Right. And sex is so much more than that. Anyway, I'm going into a little bit of a rant, which is another topic around society. But I want to give you another answer, which is, so first of all, you become more orgasmic and you already start to have beautiful experiences.
Okay.
The second thing, which is important to do, and this is again something which is missing from a lot of books and a lot of schools and a lot of workshops, is that you can actually move your sexual energy. Okay. By the way, a side note: if you Google "horny what to do," I think I'm the number one result on Google for the past year or two.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's funny that this is of all of the things I wrote about orgasm, this is the one that I'm number one on Google for. But
what's it called? What's it called?
If you Google "horny what to do." Okay. I'm checking it right now. Tell me if it's still. We had a website change recently, but I think it's still the case. Anyway, the reason that the article is so popular is that it answers. It gives 10 different answers to this question. If I'm horny, what to do? And the thing that you need to do is to move your sexual energy. Moving your sexual energy means that the sexual energy is focused in your genitals. And when you focus on the genitals, it's kind of like when you're feeling premenstrual, when everything feels like heavy and sticky around your genitals, hips, and sacrum. Mm-hmm. That's an expression of the sexual energy being stuck and stagnant around this area. So what you need is to move it a little bit. One of the things that you can do, for example, is exercise. And exercising is good for many different reasons. Okay. And get yourself, walking around the block, walking around the park. And when you walk, you move your body, the sexual energy dissipates a little bit. Mm-hmm. With your mind, you can draw your energy to your, for example, to your third eye. Okay, so you visualize the energy going into your yoni and up your body. So that's another thing that you can do. You can meditate. And as you're meditating, specifically if it's a very relaxed form of meditation, consciousness-based meditation, void-based meditation, it allows the energy to, again, move and circulate throughout your body. If you practice yoga and you do any kind of, how do you call them, inversions? Mm-hmm. Inversions. So I've studied in a yoga school for many years, and again, this is something which is unknown in the world because yoga has been prostituted to a form of exercise. So you hear about people practicing yoga, but it's all glorified exercise. Instead, yoga is magic. Okay, yoga has so many effects on the body that nobody's aware of. So, for example, if you do shoulder stand, plow position, Sarvagasana, Halasana, Shirshasana, the headstand, or handstand if you feel more physical. Anything that basically brings your hips above your throat. And if you want a very, very easy version of that, is you lay on your back and you draw your feet closer to your buttocks, and then you lift your buttocks above the ground. And then what happens is that your buttocks is higher than your throat. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, you do this and you hold this for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And what happens is the blood rushes from your genitals up towards your head, and specifically also with shoulder stand and the plow position and so on. And when that happens, also the sexual energy moves in your body. So that's one way that you can do that. And then in the article, and obviously also in the book, there's other ways that you can move the sexual energy. There's different breathing exercises, movement exercises, sound exercises, visualization exercises. There's a lot. There's really a lot. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does.
Excellent.
There was you just mentioned about sound, and I wanted to bring that up. And you talked about how, and I never really thought about this before, is how you link words with sounds. And can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, the female editor of my book, I had 2 female editors to balance for my masculine approach. So she said, why is the sound chapter so big? The chapters should be kind of like similar in length to each other. And I was like, what can I do? Sound is so important. So sounds is one of those issues that I see with people, especially with women, that they don't make sounds.
I know.
And again, society and how women are, it's like many women start masturbating as girls and then as teenagers, and they really stunt the sounds. Is that a word? My English is a bonus for the listeners. So yeah, it's like they hush themselves, they stop the sounds, they stop it in their throat. So this is one of the reasons, by the way, that women have think about the fact that women have thyroid problems on the physical level.
Yeah.
And also women have issues expressing themselves, voicing themselves, expressing their needs, their desires, their ideas, their wants, their emotions, and so on. So just the act of making sound is something that literally creates pleasure. So even if I just right now, fake it, I just go like, Okay, so it's like I'm quote unquote faking it, but just the act of making a sound of pleasure makes my mind, makes my subconscious feel like, oh, he's making pleasure sounds, so he's probably having pleasure. So this is kind of like a fake it till you make it technique. So you make sounds, and sometimes you don't even have to have pleasure. Just start making sounds. Just open your mouth, let the air flow out, and just make a long sound. And by the fact of making the sounds, and also doing some stimulation and breathing and moving and so on, your body will have more pleasure than you had before, just because of making a sound.
Yes, and it lengthens orgasms as well.
Exactly. This is literally, as long as there's a sound, the orgasm continues. So I
love that. Yeah.
I have this idea called, again, the orgasmic state, and I teach women how to go on very, very, very long orgasmic states by themselves or with their partner. And one of the keys to that is making continuous long sounds. And the long sounds, again, it's like a message to the body, which goes like, I'm still orgasming. I'm still orgasmic. I'm still coming.
Right.
I'm coming.
I think there's such a taboo. It's like you have to be quiet. Can't make noise when you're having sex because, I don't know, the kids will hear, the neighbors will hear, your parents will hear.
People actually think that you are sexual. Oh my God!
Right, like it's wrong.
That's part of the mixed messages that we get in society. So women are supposed to be beautiful and attractive and sexy, but they're not supposed to be sexual. So it's kind of like we supposedly live in in a sexually open society, but I actually claim that we are living in a sexually repressed society. I have an article I published on the Huffington Post. We can put it in the show notes as well. I can send you the link.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
It's called "Are We Sexually Repressed and Don't Know It?" Something like that. What I present there is that this thing that actually society is backwards, society is repressed, society is uneducated around sexuality, and this thing with the sound is such a good example of that, and a woman, is supposed to, a woman who has a lot of sex is called a, what's the word?
Slut or something like that.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and a man who has a lot of sex is called a stud.
Player. Yeah,
player or stud. So it's like a stud is sounds a little bit more positive than a slut.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, I believe that we should take the power back and bring the respect back to being a slut. Being a slut is great. There's no problem with being a slut. I'm a slut. I'm definitely a slut. Okay, I'm a male slut. Okay, and a slut is one of the 4 archetypes of women, and this is important that women are aware of their archetypes, they acknowledge the archetypes, and they are expressing the archetypes, because otherwise you just live, you're not living your full potential. You're not living your full feminine expression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And by the way, a woman can be a slut, and she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to actually sleep with many men if she doesn't want. A slut is an energy. A slut is different things that you express. It's not just about sleeping with many men or women, by the way. So yeah, that's the archetypes is a whole topic by itself. Yeah.
I love it. I think that there's women just don't want to be judged, and they feel very self-conscious about being loud, or even being loud with their partner. Being too loud or too much. When I think that even for the simple fact that it will actually lengthen your orgasm, I think just let it go, let it out. And I love that you connect it with thyroid issues. I see a lot of women with thyroid issues and not really having empowerment around their sexuality and sensuality. So there's such a correlation there with not having that much expression, or if they, are those, there are a lot of people who have sex and are silent, right? They don't say anything.
Yeah. And I would, walk with a woman or it's like, and women are not aware of that. Sometimes, by the way, it's like, I don't know exactly how to express that. Most people are not aware of how loud a woman and a man can be when they're having really, 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 really great sex. I had a partner that was heard by one of my friends 100 meters away. Okay, just to give you an example, it's like, this is how loud the woman. She was a small woman. Okay, and but still, it's like, it can be so pleasurable. You can be shouting and screaming and moaning for hours. And it's not that you have to do it, but once the pleasure is so strong, it's like there's a pleasure of making sound. There's a release in making sound. There's the joy of the expression in making sounds. It's like singing in a way. So really there's I sometimes want to create, kind of like sexual education movies where you and by the way, it's like I have a few video clips on YouTube, and it's not like really, really the strongest that I've ever heard, but you can get some examples of that, of the kind of sounds and kind of experiences that women can have, sometimes without me even touching them, So yeah, it's beautiful what's possible.
Now, do you work with women? Obviously, you coach women and you work one-on-one with them. Do you also work with them physically and do that sort of thing as well?
Yeah, so the majority of my work is via Skype. And via Skype, I work with women on their sexuality and their creativity and their business. And some of the sessions are also what I call orgasmic activation, which means that via Skype, I bring some women to an orgasmic state, sometimes without even seeing them. They don't see me, sometimes even just with my voice, which is, if there's any men listening as well, you can do so much with your voice. You can do so much with words. So we mentioned sounds earlier. And again, one of the things where I'm considered different by my colleagues is I'm using voice and words where I'm speaking to a woman and I'm able to reach beyond her mind. So people think, words, are for the mind. But no, I'm speaking kind of like right now when I'm speaking to you, I'm very factual. But when I'm speaking to a woman and doing kind of like an orgasmic activation, I am tapping into literally talking with her soul and talking with her body through my voice and through words. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about myths and I'm talking about archetypes in a way that really activates her. And it's also about drawing women into their feminine, into their surrender, into softness, because so many women in society become over masculinized and dry and controlling. And it's like, sometimes they are successful and they're rocking it and they're making money and they're managing people, which is great. But they're doing it from a masculine place instead of doing it from a feminine place. Mm-hmm. And they don't know where the brakes are. They don't know where the pause button is. They don't know where the femininity went. And that's obviously creates, first of all, psychological issues and stress. And then later, because of the mind-body connection, it creates physical ailments. And think about how many women have issues in their reproductive systems, reproductive areas. Mm-hmm. Just think about that statistics in the past, it's like 20, 30, 50 years. Medicine has evolved and there's much more illnesses around these areas. So one of the reasons is like, think about it. It's like take fresh water, put it in a pool, and don't touch this fresh water for a few months. The water will become stale and stagnant. And the sexual energy is exactly the same thing. When a woman's sexual energy and femininity is being locked, it becomes stagnant, and then it becomes disease. It becomes stress. It becomes anxiety. It becomes fear. It becomes anger. By the way, many women are also passive aggressive. Mm. Okay, what you described earlier as being bitchy and stuff. So, yeah, it's very sad, I have to say, because men have forgot how to be men and women have forgot how to be women. And it's kind of like this politically correct thing that we are all the same. We're not the same. We're equal, but we're not the same. It's like we both have both masculine and feminine energy, and it's great to tap into both of them. It's not just that a man needs to be masculine and a woman needs to be feminine. It's like I love exploring my feminine energy. I love expressing my feminine energies. To answer your question, by the way, I hold also bodywork sessions for women, which I call the Goddess Awakening session. The Goddess Awakening session includes tantric massage and tantric bodywork and de-armoring and yoni massage and orgasmic activation that I mentioned and healing trauma and emotional release and working with the chakras. Basically, a lot of stuff that I experienced to the past 20 years or more of playing with these energies and this work. And yeah, in this bodywork sessions, women reach places that they've never thought were even possible.
I bet. Yeah. Now, where are you based out of?
I'm based in Melbourne, Australia, but I have to say, it's like even for people who can't experience this, personally, the work via Skype is still very, 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 very transformational, and what you can do just by basically listening to somebody and following their guidance. It's like I go on a Skype session and I teach a woman to breathe, because most women don't breathe. Because why they don't breathe? Because you are taught you're not supposed to have a belly. You're supposed to have either six-pack or concave belly.
Right.
A woman is supposed to have six-pack and concave belly, and I find it sad. So women don't breathe to their belly. They breathe to their chest and their shoulders, which actually creates effort and anxiety and stress and tiredness. So I sometimes spend, 20 minutes just getting a woman to breathe into her beautiful belly. So, yeah, there's so many aspects to this work.
Do you teach the sound, the thing that you were talking about with sounds and how men, if they only knew the power in their voice and their sounds, do you teach that to them?
Yes. So this is kind of like a new chapter in my work where I've done this work by myself and worked with women and obviously made love with many women. And this is how I learned. And in the past few years, I started teaching both men and women how to do this either as lovers or as sexual practitioners. So one of my workshops is called Beyond Yoni Massage, Awakening Female Pleasure. And in this workshop, we kind of like go step by step in how to pleasure, heal, and empower women to reach this ecstatic states of pleasure and orgasm. So this is something that includes many, many different modalities, many, many different techniques to teach men how to use first of all, their presence, even without voice, and then their eyes. You can bring a woman to orgasm with your eyes. You can bring a woman to orgasm with your presence, and obviously with very light touch, which is not even genital touch. So I hold, and by the way, it's not all the women, it's only women who allow themselves to be open to me. So if a woman allows herself to be open to me and I hug her, a woman would start orgasming in my hands, and I'm just hugging her and touching her back.
Wow.
Not, inserting my fingers or anything. Mm-hmm. So that's what's possible. Orgasm is a realm. Being orgasmic is a realm. Being able to orgasmically activate another person is an art that you can actually learn. So this is, and by the way, just to add, it's not just about the orgasm. It's not just about the pleasure, because pleasure is medicinal. And once you start to experience these states, it heals stuff that is totally unrelated to sexuality. One of my clients is a cellist that I'm also helping her with a music career and booking gigs and being paid more and so on. But she just told me a few months ago that she got rid of a pain in her back that she had for years. And we didn't even have an intention to work on the pain in her back. I didn't even know about the pain in her back. I worked with her half the world away through Skype. And because of the sexual energy and because of her openness and because of all of the work that she's done with me, that pain by itself, it just disappeared. Wow. And this is what I mean. It's like I love pleasure and I love orgasm, but it's about life empowerment. It's about creativity. It's about your femininity. It's about joy, joie de vivre. It's about joy of life. It's about how you share your gift and you serve other people from this full feminine nurturing place. And it's about basically your connection to God, which is, consciousness and love. It's much more than just pleasure.
Oh my God, I love this conversation. I could really talk to you for so much longer. Are there any last things that you'd like to share with the listeners?
I would say if this, what you hear right now, inspires you, start by practicing it. Okay, get the book, orgasmunleashed.com. You can find it on Amazon, paperback, Kindle, everything. And start practicing and notice that if there's any blockages, any challenges, anything, it's a sign that you need to work on this. No, you don't need to work on this because some man with an Israeli accent tells you, but because you recognize that this probably is the missing aspect in your life. It's like maybe you have the career and you have the family and you have something or another, but what's actually missing is that connection to your deep feminine and connection to deep pleasure, which would lift everything up, lift everything else up as well. So really give this a try. Really, really focus on this. And obviously, if you want my help further, contact me through the website. And I work with a few women throughout the year. And I really want to give you this message that this is possible. Every woman can become orgasmic. Every woman is already orgasmic. Every woman can experience this stuff. I worked with women who had, it's like childbirth trauma and hysterectomy and, hormonal problems and, 60-something-year-old women became so crazy orgasmic they couldn't sleep at night because they were vibrating and shaking. So it's possible for everybody to experience this, and men as well. So, yeah, wow. Go for it. Really go for it. It's beautiful.
And you say, the whole 30 days, did you say 30 days of trying to get rid of the clitoral addiction? I think that's so brilliant because I've never heard it referred to as that, but I can see it's easy. It's there. It's 30 seconds or minutes later. You have this orgasm and you feel as, like, oh, okay, well, I did. And now on for the rest of my day. Yet you're right, because a lot of that are just, they're really superficial and not as deep as we can experience.
Yeah, and that's there's obviously so much more than that. And I would also call out, I'm basically creating something which I call the new sexual revolution. It's a new movement that I'm creating, and it's all about changing these ideas of sex and sexuality and using sexuality as an empowering force in our life. And if you are somebody who's listening, you are yourself a coach, a therapist, a counselor, working with people, having your own blog, magazine, podcast, or whatever, I would love to share this with your audience. Okay, this work only spreads through people like you, Margaret. So only because you brought me to your podcast today, your listeners heard about this stuff. So I really want to share my ideas and content and PDFs and videos and stuff. There's so much to share with people's audiences. So yeah, I'm really happy to cooperate with people and to bring this work out there, because we need this. I think the world is ready for the real sexual revolution.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. I do have 3 quick questions that I'm going to ask you that I end my interviews with.
Sure.
Okay. Currently, what is at your bedside right now?
At my bedside? My Kindle, which I love very much. I'm currently reading many of William Gibson's novels. If somebody knows William Gibson. I have a sleep mask because I like sleeping with no light. And I have my phone because I'm tracking my sleep and sleep patterns. So yeah, I like not having things around me.
Okay, great. And what is one of your biggest indulgences or guilty pleasures?
I like not to so much call it guilt, but because that's a whole different conversation. What the words that we use, so I don't call it sin or guilt or anything like that. I really love chocolate. I love really good chocolate. I love in Australia we have something called panna chocolate. But generally everything which is very dark. And I also make my own chocolate. I used to sell and teach people how to make chocolate. So my chocolate is one of my favorite indulgences.
Okay.
It's like a creamy chocolate thing. I'll send the recipe to anybody who asks. I have no secrets.
Oh, I'd love it. And what is the hottest place you've ever had sex?
The hottest place
not as in hot, as in temperature, as in, you know what I mean.
A woman.
Okay.
The hottest sex I've ever had sex is all the women that I've been with. But if you want something really
like
exotic,
a location.
Yes. So I was living in the middle of a coconut grove in Thailand for 7 years. So that's the general place where I had a lot of sex. And then I was with a circus performer, and she got me to climb the tree, and we had sex on the tree on my birthday. So yeah.
Okay.
And while she was hanging on upside down, that was that was, and there was many others, obviously. So yeah.
Okay. I love it. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate your time. For the women listening out there, you got to get this book, Orgasm Unleashed, Your Guide to Pleasure, Healing, and Power. And I'm sure our paths will cross at some point. I would absolutely fly to Australia to have this yoni massage, the chakra, the goddess activation workshop with you.
Call me. I would actually planning like, a US tour. I will.
Oh, seriously?
For me, it's like I would go where the call is. It's like organize the workshop for me. I will come, and then when I come, I will hold.
Oh, did I lose you? Oh, okay. I missed the last thing that you just said.
I'm still here.
Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Okay,
there we go. Hear you.
There we go.
Okay.
Repeat what you just said about US. Oh, you would come. You said you would come to if I organize something or if somebody organizes something.
I would go anywhere in the world if somebody organizes a workshop.
Oh, nice.
That's the thing. I want to carry this and to bring this where it's needed. So I'm planning US in the middle to late 2017. So yeah.
All right, we got to talk then.
Awesome, love. And thank you very much for having me and for the work you do, because it's only thanks to people who are brave enough to put this kind of messages and topics out in the world that this work really gets to the hands and bodies and hearts of the people who really need it. So thank you, Margaret. I really, really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. And have the most beautiful weekend.
Thank you, love. Thank you very much. All the best. And your pleasure is my pleasure. All the best.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoy this interview with Eyal. To learn more about him and for all the show notes, head on over to margaretromero.com/episode 17. And maybe your clitorises are still throbbing after that interview. And if you haven't received your gift from me, it's called Owning Your Femininity, 4 Steps to Embodying Your Sensual Self. You can head on over to margaretromero.com/gift. And then you'll be on our newsletter because I have lots of fun and exciting events and retreats coming up this year. You definitely want to stay in the loop with that. Okay, well, until next time, love to you all. Have an amazing week.